Welcome, everyone. I am so glad you're here with me. So, if you've been around with Family in Focus for a hot minute, you may have heard a lot of my voice. So, today we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. And this is really, oh my gosh, so meaningful to me because there are things that I love. I love connection. I love coffee and I love having conversations with my bestest friends in all the world. And so I have welcomed one of them here today to honestly just hang out and we're going to weave some things together. So I would like to welcome my dear friend, Dr. Faryal Michaud, and she is a palliative care physician. She is an amazing coach. She is a dear friend. She is my gosh, I should have written all this out a little bit more. She is the woman behind Physicians Living Intentionally. And so we're going to have some conversations here today that, oh gosh, are so meaningful to just so meaningful in my world. But I want to be able to share that because she is such a wonderful person. So, Fariel, thank you for joining me at some crazy early time in Hawaii right now.
Thank you, Wendy. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. And I love that you didn't have anything in writing because every time somebody does that for me, I always feel like they're talking about somebody else. So I know you know me as a person first and as a friend. So it is a pleasure to have coffee with you and have connection and really dive in what matters, which is exactly connection above all. And part of Physicians Living Intentionally is having connection to yourself. And I'm hoping that we get to dive into that a little bit. Thanks for creating this space and having me in it. Thank you.
Okay, my heart is beating so much right now. I think I mean, let's be honest, anytime we're in the same space, and I'm hearing, it's like I'm hearing my words out of your mouth. Like, how is it that we have the same language? Like, I think that that's one of the big things that just draws me to you so very much because I'm like, you are taking the same beautiful principles and using them in your own unique world.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I think a little background you did share that I'm a palliative care physician and also that I live in Hawaii. I'm a parent to two teenage girls, and I created the space of Physicians Living Intentionally. It was right around COVID, and it was 2020, and we were all very isolated. And at the same time, I feel like staggered and aimless and really not knowing how to anchor yourself. So I came up with some ideas. I grew up in Japan. I have some background in Eastern philosophy, and I thought using that as tapestry along with the recognition of at any time we have our face and our veil pressed against death and dying. How do we live super presently with our life, whatever chapter it is in right now? And how do we really appreciate the life we're living in a day to day? And I think a lot of it actually came from parenting and my disconnect that as a physician, when I was at work, I was not there at home for my kids. And when I was at home, I felt like I wasn't present at work. Like I should have been more looking things up or what have you. And the physician living intentionally came a lot from the space of me wanting to be present for my children. I have a story that if your audience has heard me hear this on a different talk, I apologize, sounding like a broken record. When my kids were little, and I'm talking 5 and 3, I used to go to the public library, Wendy, and we would check out, the girls would put whatever book they wanted. And on Friday, it was a night that they would all sleep in our bed and they would pick the books that they wanted to. And so I remember my little one asking, one night when we were reading, can we be the kings and queens of anything we want to be? And I said, yeah, absolutely. We all live our stories and you could be anything. And they paused and they said, Dad is a king of windsurfing. Like they paused and they looked at each other. And My older daughter is a queen of, they both said reading. And the younger daughter, they said she's a queen of swimming. And then they said mom is a queen of, and there was this long pause, and they both said working. And then it was actually very jarring because here I was doing everything I could in my day-to-day life to be present for them. And the image they had of me was this woman that was working all the time. And so I tell you this long story by saying that physician living intentionally came from a place of me wanting to be super present in my life. And in that chapter of my life, almost 6 years ago, being a parent to teenage girls was front and center. Since then, living intentionally has continued to mean that for me, which is first and foremost what is mattering to me in this chapter of my life is being present as a parent to them. So being invited to this coffee and connection conversation where we are going to talk about physicians living intentionally, I am hoping that your audience can pause and reflect on what does living intentionally mean to them in this chapter of their life.
Oh my gosh. Which, you know, is really powerful. And let's be honest, like this is so, so much bigger than, you know, physicians doing it. It's like, how do we live intentionally in our day to day? And what I'm hearing is that there's so much more than it's not about the physician. It's about me. It's about me as a parent, but also just like embracing all the different aspects of my life. Like, how do I do that intentionally?
Mhm.
And I'm really struck by how, you know, you go back to like COVID. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's where all of my stuff was, you know, really accelerated. Like, I'd had, you know, these kind of, you know, things going on for quite some time where I was like, you know, I'm practicing in a way that is not consistent with how I want to live, how I want to practice, how I want to be able to help families, but also my own family that was getting the scraps at home. I was
Mhm.
just so strung out with pouring so much into work. And then when I get home, I'm like, I got nothing left in the tank. And it showed. It showed with them. I felt that. And so I hear that going through those periods, I mean, I had to go through that to get here. I had to go through that pain and it taught me so much about how I wanted so much more
Mm.
for me and for my family. Yeah. Like there is so much more there for us than just being the queen of work.
Mhm.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I mean, you rock that crown. Like, you totally can rock that crown.
No, I love that. And and I do say physicians living intentionally a lot, but as you know, I mean, I coach people of all walks of life. And as a palliative care physician, I coach people, I do manage people's symptoms associated with their disease. The burden of their disease, the burden of the treatment of most of my patients are stage 3 and 4 cancer patients. But I feel like the bulk of my work is giving people a pause and reflection to give their brain and their thoughts equal air time to thoughts that are supportive thoughts. I think that learning to be kind to yourself. Like I think even that story that I say me being queen of working was jarring. But if I'm being honest and if I'm being kind to myself, I was creating this life for my husband to go windsurfing because he was in medical school. Like I was working and putting him through medical school and working and putting my daughter in swim team and spending ridiculous amount of hours with my 5-year-old who was an avid reader already at that age. So I think that even when we retell our story about ourselves and our lives, I'm hoping that living intentionally for all of us means how can I be kind to myself when I'm retelling my whatever version of story I'm telling myself?
Yeah, I hear that, like, very close here. Yeah, because there are so many places that we've had growth, you know, that place where you hit the wall. I remember you saying something at some point in time about, like, running home with your hair on fire, like, and again, that stood out to me because I was like, "Oh, she's using my words." Like, I say that too. Recognizing those moments where running around with my hair on fire, there's a reason why I did that. How can I look at that with kindness? And what is it that how I've learned and grown since then? Because I think the other thing that I'm hearing is that how much this is the type of conversation that we can have with our kids as they're getting older. Like, how much can they give the equal airtime to the other side? We've got so much of that, negative conversation coming up right now. There's a lot of things that we're struggling with. And yet, what's the other side?
Yeah, and I think that's really beautiful and that's very powerful as a parent because I think whether we like it or not, the way we see ourselves, the light at which we analyze ourselves with, whether we like it or not, is sort of reflect about upon our children. So I had a conversation about being kind to yourself with my older daughter who's visiting from college yesterday, and she was asking me like, what does that even mean? And I think, how do we give that of all the way we parent, if we can parent our young adult children and teaching them what it means to have compassion, what it means to be kind to yourself, and really put it in a very granular way, like really being kind to yourself, be kind to your mind. You always hear these bumper sticker statements in mindfulness arena. What does that really mean? And so I think what is the value of this conversation is to know that unless we can really verbalize it for ourselves, unless we can know how can we be kind to ourselves, it's impossible to try to teach it to somebody else.
That getting granular with them sounds like first figuring that out for ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's easier said than done, right? Like I can coach people on a lot of different things, but when I have to turn them, like they say, turn the light in, as Buddhists say, it's not easy. It's not easy. I can coach someone with my issue very easily, but trying to put the hat back on and trying to coach myself, it's a very challenging way of being, but at the same time, how can I be kind to myself? Realizing is challenging, realizing suffering is part of life, and how do we make peace with that? How do we use the concept of allowing, right? Allow myself to be wrong, allow myself to have made mistakes with my kids, allow myself to realize that any given day I can start over again. And as long as we're breathing, there's more right with us than is wrong with us. So, how can we leverage that absolute truth to navigate through life, parenthood, marriage, the next day? So, that's sort of, I'm interested in us talking about that and hearing your thoughts on that too.
Oh my goodness. What you're talking about is really like where it goes from us talking about connection and then actually like living that with our kids. Like, how do we really help parents, helping ourselves, really be able to create the connection that we want to live and share, in our homes? I'm hearing you, you know, talking about how there's, the growth that you've had over time, the pain, the wanting to share and be granular with kids. And yet the word that sticks out to me is kindness, teaching them about being kind by first doing that for yourself. My brain automatically wants to say, that's hard.
Yeah,
Like,
and I
I'm not
think
used to that.
I think as women, I'm sure all people could be listening to this, but the cruel part of nature is that as we're getting to hit menopause and our hormones are going haywire, oftentimes we're dealing with kids whose hormones are going haywire. So it's almost impossible. It's almost like two people. And I'm originally from Iran. English is not my first language. I've grown up speaking a language that isn't mine. But I feel like with women hitting menopause and girls, if you have daughters or boys too, that hormonal asymmetry or absolute chaos, it's a lot to ask for. We're speaking different languages. We can't be kind to ourselves, and we are expected to act kind to people around us where, the elevator isn't going all the way up. And so there's a lot. There's a lot of, juggling, right? There's a lot of juggling emotions, juggling, what does being kind to me look like in a vacuum? Like, forget everybody else in my life that I'm trying to have this dance with at home. But what does being kind to me look like? What is missing a hot yoga class in the morning mean to me if all my life I have measured myself with a stick of productivity and stick it to itness? Like, what does that look like? So I think a lot of this is relearning what any of the goals and the gold stickers we've had for ourselves means now in this chapter. There's all these memes and all these funny things about how you parented your kid and how you grandparent your grandchild. And a lot of it, I think, is you have space. You have actual space and you are not playing whack-a-mole with your own life. So you can hold space for a screaming child as a grandparent, but as a young mother, as someone who's going through so much, it's just harder. So I'm only saying that for anyone to reflect on the fact that what we're doing is hard. And at the same time, the only way you can navigate the hard is allowing yourself to be human, allowing yourself to make mistakes. Know that no one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be hard on my kids. I want to be hard on myself. We all mean well, but we don't always have the right tools and sentences and mental mindset to be present in our lives.
That aspect of speaking different languages. I gotta tell you, when I was originally thinking, like, how would I introduce you? I was like, okay, and here's Faryal, the most cosmopolitan friend I know. Like, you have so many different connections and threads and just like, and I never know where I'm gonna find you, like anywhere in the world. And as you were talking about acceptance, it took me back to a lovely trip to Hawaii. And I want to make sure that I'm getting it straight because you were teaching, and I think it was about the word acceptance. Was it acceptance, I believe? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you
Absolutely.
care sharing? Because it meant so much as far as the translation into Farsi or from Farsi. Please, you can tell the story much better than me.
I love that lesson. I have to say, when you coach or parent or teach anybody, we always want to say, how can I get my point across in a way that hits home? And a lot of the teaching or the coaching or what have you comes from my belief that our ticket to salvation and peacefulness is mindfulness and accepting the state that we're in, like acceptance. How much do we talk about? Whether it's 12-step program or whether it's Eckhart Tolle or whether it's anything, we always talk, or grief, we always talk about acceptance. And when I was trying to teach people the concept of acceptance, I just realized that the way the word acceptance actually sits with me as a human, there's a little bit of begrudgingness, like accept your fate. Like it is what it is. Like that doesn't sound good. Like I don't want it is what it is. That just sounds like I am accepting something that I really don't want to. Like almost like settling for second best, or I guess this is a good place. Like acceptance doesn't feel good. So how can you, quote unquote, accept, open arms, be there for a feeling that is second best? So then I was thinking, what is acceptance? How do we say acceptance in Farsi? Because that's what the power of different languages come in. And the word acceptance in Farsi is pazirish. And pazirish, literally, now if I have to translate pazirish into English, is welcoming. So if you think about an acceptance letter to your favorite school or program, acceptance letter is not begrudgingly, like they welcome you. So what if we thought about acceptance of our flaws, whatever you think your flaws are. If you don't like the body you're in, if you don't like the sound of your voice, if you don't like your habits, whatever it is that makes you the human, the imperfectly perfect human that you are, how can you accept that it's not begrudgingly? And then I thought, what if I welcomed the sound of my voice? What if I welcome that if you want to see my house, give me a day's notice. If you want to see me, show up anytime. How can I accept how can I welcome people in my space without constantly seeing myself and my life from the lens of being judged? And that acceptance is just welcoming. That it is what it is becomes, this is who I am.
Okay, so I am practicing the word pasiresh over and over again in my head, like trying so badly. And I am trying to like really take that, like copy and paste into working with kids. Cause let's be honest, they're speaking a completely different language. I mean, and I'm not talking about that Gen whatever cap, whatever thing that I can't even do it. But like welcoming that acceptance of, yeah, this is what it is right now, in the sense of I'm welcoming whatever they are putting out there. Like in another way of hearing that acceptance, that welcoming, I'm hearing receiving.
Mm.
And there's a whole lot to receive right now. Like it's just nonstop. And yet, like I keep on trying to bring that back to, okay, our kids are speaking a different language. How can I pasiresh? Okay, there you go. How can I accept? How can I welcome that? And I'm putting this out there because these are questions that I keep on spinning over me as I'm like receiving all of the emotions. Like yesterday was a fun day with, adult kids and receiving all the different things that I was like, oh, why can't you just speak my language? Why can't I just teach you how to do this? And it's like, no, just accept, just welcome. This is what they're experiencing right now. And I think that's the thing is you're talking about being intentional, like just receiving it. This is where we are right now.
And I do want to say, again, it's easier said than done. I want to give you an example and see if audience can, reflect on this and see if this is something that could have happened. There was a tense moment in the elevator with one of my daughters. I can think about it's a couple years ago. And just the context of it to set the stage is that there was this moment of just tension. We weren't talking to each other. We were going to a place that she didn't want to go to. And I was parenting her to go to this place. And as we're in the elevator, she asked me, she's like, what time is it? And our appointment was at 1:00, right? And I said, it's 10 till. And then she said, why do you always tell a time like this? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, why don't you just say 12:50? What does 10 till mean? And oh my gosh, Wendy, that question set me off. And the thought that followed me, the elevator door opened, she went to her appointment, and all the thoughts was like, I can do nothing right. That she opens her mouth to judge me. She opens her mouth, nothing positive comes out of her mouth. I can't do nothing right. And here I am, I was like in the middle of 7 things to make her get to this appointment. And then on reflection, it was a conversation. She could have said nothing. She could have thought it and said, my mom is stupid. What does 10 till even mean? And all my life, I've told the time like that, like it's a 1/4 till, it's 10 after. I mean, I talk like that, and I've never thought, why do I talk like this? We don't tell time like that in Iran. I've lived in Japan. They don't tell time like that in Japan. So, but if I could think about every conversation between two humans, and one of them could be my children, is actually an attempt for connection and not criticism. And it's just really a simple question. Why do I tell time like that where no one else in her community, like you said, different languages, No one in her grade level, no one of her friends would tell time like that. So a lot of checking in and allowing and pasirage really comes down to before we can allow a thought, before we can accept something, what is a helpful thought? So for me, acceptance in that setting, welcoming in that setting is the fact that she opened her mouth in this elevator. I could have welcomed it that she's making an attempt for connection. So before I can welcome anything, I need to sort of sort out the thoughts that are being thrown in my head and, you know, go through it and say, which one is a helpful thought? So I can accept the helpful thought. Because the other thought is, I can do nothing right. Do I want to accept that thought?
I hear getting curious behind all this, like receiving your daughter's curiosity and then getting curious for yourself. Why do I do these things without the judgment? Like, I have no idea.
Absolutely,
Wow.
because the context of, you could have asked me that, Faryal, why do you tell time like that? And I would have never, it wouldn't set me into, oh my gosh, I do nothing wrong. I'm like, yeah, that is curious. Why do I tell the time like that? And you asking me because our context is, you're simply curious. There's no story attached with you asking me. Then I can be curious as well. But I think when the emotions are high in parenting, in context of what's going on between two human beings relationship is curiosity is not always available. But if you can tap into curiosity, you can let go of stories, judgment, versions in all different ways. You're absolutely right.
Telling you, we've got the same language here, which is mind blowing, okay, to this Pennsylvania Dutch girl who's like, okay, maybe I lived a short period of time in Japan, but I will not speak Japanese. Not well, at least. Okay. I could at least say gomenasai and like sumimasen. So basically me saying I'm so sorry anytime we would like tread on someone's foot or we'd spill something as I was going around in Japan with little people making a mess. So those were the words that I learned. And Farsi, yeah, no, pasirash. There you go. That's what I got. And yet here we are speaking the language of curiosity and connection. And oh my gosh, like it's beautiful because these are concepts that are becoming more and more real as we're exploring different languages, but also just, with our kids, who of course are speaking a completely different language. Yeah. So now I know it's the beginning of your day. Like what I don't even think it's 8 a.m. where you are. I mean, this is blowing my mind right now. So I know you have a beautiful day ahead of you. I want to honor that. And really thank you for joining me here. I'm wondering if there is maybe something that you would want to share. Like, I've got a community of parents who are really doing their hardest to be able to create stronger relationships with their kids. And I'm just wondering if there's like one gem that you would want to share from your experience. What would it be?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So I have this, and again, I'm weaving in palliative care into this. There is this tool that I teach my residents, and I think this tool works with everybody. And it's, if a surgeon's vessel is a scalpel, for us is our words, how we talk to people, how can we meet people where they are, and how can we let people feel heard, because that's when they can open up and also process what we're saying. So there's this teaching that I share with residents. I think you can use it in parenting, and it's called Wish, Worry, Wonder. And now that I said this, I did a whole podcast on it, but I do want to share it because I think it's a great one. And the wish statement is intended to align you with the patient or child. And the worry is sharing your concern and prognosis, which very well could be your concern and prognosis of the patient or child. And then wonder is your gentle recommendation. And so I'm going to say it in context of parenting, and you'll see what I mean. So let's say the new Spider-Man movie is coming out, which is coming out. And let's say your child really wants to see it. And at the same time, there is a big, let's say, orchestra piece, and my daughter plays cello. So I'm just using experience in my life that may be relatable to someone. For you, could be soccer, could be baseball, whatever it is. And so the kid says, Mom, I want to go see Spider-Man this weekend. And it's not just Spider-Man this weekend. It's leading up to it, how long it's going to take. It really takes a whole day or a evening out for a kid's life. And then the next morning they have to sleep in for an extra 2 hours because they were out late. So I'm just using you that probably is not the best use of their time this particular weekend. And so instead of saying, no, what are you doing? Don't you have a big, piece to practice, which is not what they want to do. You use the wish, worry, wonder statement, and it would be something like this. I really wish that we could go see, or you. You could say we, because if you have a relationship that you enjoy going to these movies with your kids still, or if they don't want to be seen with you anywhere in the theater, that's you. But you could say, I wish we could go to the theater this weekend. And I worry, when you say wish, I'm already aligning myself with them because they also wish to go. I worry that if we spend 4 or 5 hours, or you spend 4 or 5 hours at the theater, that's sort of gonna take away from your whole weekend, night, and the next day, which again, a little bit they may worry. And that won't give you enough time to practice for your piece, right? Again, I'm just worrying. I'm not telling you what to do. I worry that if you make this choice, it may sort of take you elsewhere. And I wonder if we should, or you should, focus on this piece that you're practicing and then trying to go see Spider-Man the day after the concert. So when you do this, the wish, worry, wonder, you're not saying no to your child. You are letting them know that you understand it's fun. You also want them to do it. There's some concerns that you may have, which they also have. And you saying, I worry, takes the blame on you because it's your problem. I worry that if you do this, you won't have enough time. Where they also may worry a little bit in the back of their mind. And wonder gives them option B. Now, at the end of wish, worry, wonder, if the kids are older, they're like, no, I don't care. I want to go. I want to honor that we have kids. And if the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree, and we are very determined human beings, we've created copies. And so there's a possibility that doesn't go anywhere. But this way, it's not a tug of war. Is coming from concern and weaves in curiosity. And I think that's what you're teaching. How can we create connection from a place of curiosity? How can we let go of judgment, allowing acceptance, all of that? So this wish, worry, wonder is a beautiful way that you can hear them out, give other options, and still slide in what your concerns are without acting or sounding judgy and inflexible.
Hmm. I heard the word allyship in there as far as like being on the same team with your child. I wish we could do this together. I wonder, and I hear in the wonder about, kind of being able to share your perspective without telling them this is the way I think. Because as soon as we do that, yeah, of course, the apple does not fall far from the tree. My kids are like, rejected. I don't care. Yeah. But I wonder is again kind of like opening up that door to be able to not just receive, but to also share, to reach out. This is what I'm seeing. And oh my gosh, like I'm just seeing how that's once again creating the opportunity to be on the same team with to be able to co create. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, because I think the kids, even though they don't want our opinion, as they get older, they still realize we're the parent and we want what's good for them. They may not want what we want for them, So I think what I like about this kind of conversation tool in parenting is that you let them what you think. And at the end of the day, they're going to make their own decisions. But I think the problem becomes when you don't want to say anything to your kid and you start by, they don't listen to me anyway. What's the point of me? The moment when we stop talking, when we feel like our advice is unneeded or it's not going to land, and maybe we question how we're giving this advice.
Yeah. I realized as I was processing through all of that, I got it messed up already. I was like, oh, I said worry, or I said wonder instead of worry. I'm going to keep on practicing. Oh my gosh. I thank you so much. Now, for those parents that are listening right now, they're like, oh my gosh, I need more Faryal. Where can they find you? Oh my goodness. Could you please share?
Yeah, so speaking of living intentionally, so I have a podcast. I started the podcast, I think, in 2020 around the time of COVID, and I was so good. I was recording once a week, and then, my own parenting journey hit a bump, and everything went on back burner. I had a physician retreat in Hawaii where you came and shared that story with. I held that retreat 3 years in a row, and then pivoting and focusing on my life, I have a lot less presence, whether it's on social media, whether it's on my podcast. So I think the last time I recorded my podcast is probably about, I want to say 2 years ago, but the podcast is still alive. I'm paying someone to keep it going. And it used to be called Write Your Last Chapter. And it was within the context of palliative care, teaching people. But within the context of palliative care, there's a lot of everyday examples like this where it applies to living, not necessarily dying. And now I think it's called Living Your Best Chapter. And so you could just Google it. I think it's on Apple, and there's, I don't know, 120 episodes that are there. Eventually, once my last child heads to college, I have every intention to come back and be present for creating for the world, whether it's content or advice. But I feel like moving on immediately, I like to be present for, my own little unit of family. Yeah, that's where I am. I have a, social media presence, which, as you mentioned, I travel. So if you're following me, you're probably just seeing where I'm headed. Not a lot of conversation there, but I love community. People reach out to me, ask me questions. Some people are losing their loved one or faced with a serious illness themselves. If you reach out to me, I try to be present for you and answer any question any way that I can. So yes, it's Dr. Faryal Michaud. That's the handle on Instagram. And if you're a physician, it's in Physicians Living Intentionally on Facebook. And thank you so much, Wendy.
I love this. I would just like to highlight one thing that I heard in that. The permission that you've given yourself to be able to say, this is what I choose to focus on right now. To be able to say, this chapter, this time, I choose to focus here. By the way, somebody else is keeping the podcast alive. That's totally cool. And you get to choose what is most important to you, where you want to focus. And I think that's really the highlight of everything. This is why I adore you so very much, because you're living that out loud.
I love that. And, I have to tell you, as I'm looking at you, your beautiful smile, and I see your name, and under your name, it says Family in Focus. And I just realized that me living intentionally in my life in this chapter is family in focus. For me, living intentionally today, this chapter is family in focus.
Mic drop. I love you so very much.
I love you too. Thank you for this conversation. Always a treat.
Thank you, Faryal, for coming and joining us here today. Now, I'd like to remind everybody, okay, first of all, while Dr. Michaud and I are both physicians, we are most definitely not your physician, okay? And so we're just having the time of our lives. None of this is medical advice whatsoever. Keep that wonderful relationship you have with your physician. And by the way, tell them that we said hi. So, and then, of course, let's not forget that you get to take what fits from here. I have a sneaky feeling there's going to be a lot that you may see that fits in your life. Leave the rest and be gentle as you create the change that you want to see in your life for your family. Much love.